get going with the video. Do you remember how when I bought this car, it has been a fairly loved car, but a little bit neglected in terms of upkeep and appearance for a while, and how I utterly transformed it from being a bit shabby, a bit green in places, to being actually quite shiny and quite nice. That was all with Diamond Bright stuff, so I'm really thankful that they are sponsoring the channel, continuing to support the channel and the stupid stuff I do with these ridiculous old cars. So thanks Diamond Bright. Please check out the link to their website in the description below. There's all manner of car detailing and care products on their site. Thanks so much indeed. On with the video. Well, it's another lovely day here in the southeast of England, the Garden of England, where apparently it is good to have rain a lot, apparently. Not if you're trying to work on cars though. Currently I have got a few finishing touches to do to the convertible before it goes for its MOT. Video on that coming soon. I've got a lot of welding to do on the Mercedes. I may or may not have just picked up a discount welder on the Black Friday sales. Rover V8 hiding away in the garage has more to do. I have now got, where has the bag gone? Whoops. Some bolts to hold the downpipes to the manifolds. I thought they were UNF half-inch, but turns out they're M8, which is why I couldn't make them go in. Went and tried a variety of bolts at a nut and bolt fastening emporium. So these are the correct size now, so that will now go into the car. But yes, I have got a great many tasks to be getting on with, and I've also got to go and get the Alpha, but it's chucking rain. I don't want to drive it home in dirty cold weather. Anyway, it's about 4 degrees today, it's chucking with rain, so I can't take the cover off the convertible, I can't take the cover off the Mercedes and do outside work on them. It's too cold to touch bits of metal, and it occurred to me I've also got these rather handy Volvo radio interface gubbinsy bits waiting to be installed on the Volvo, which was very nicely sent in by channel, it's a member of Patreon, Richie, I can't remember which one you are. But yeah, Rich works in the car audio industry and sent me these bits to install a radio, so I figured if I work in the Volvo I can sit in a heated seat for the majority of the task. So I'm coming into the car right now, in fact I'm in the car right now, to do stuff in the warm with the heater on and the heated seat on. I'm not only going to turn it off when it comes to plugging wires in. So right, I'm also going to put you onto a GoPro because I can't hold the camera at the same time, and a GoPro can be in places that are small. Right, GoPro time. Important part of any task when you're working in the car, keep a cup of tea at hand. This is on the tea shelf, but I put it on a book so it doesn't crack or damage the old plastic. Now, to find some way of mounting the GoPro. The heated seat is on. This is a nice way of working with the heated seat on. I can definitely recommend this. Now, I had previously found that this radio will just wiggle out way too easily. I guess it must have come out a couple of times in the past, but I can't put it into gear to remove it. That's awkward. And there we have a bunch of wires. There's the antenna. Next task on this, apart from the speakers, is actually to put a proper electric wind out triggered aerial on, because that would make things so much more cool. I don't think I can fit pop-up headlights to a Volvo, so we can though go with a wind-up electric aerial, because that is the height of sophistication. And this is the what's it called? What brand is this? Connect2.com. Right, so what we'll do, this sits with the sticky out end facing upward, the two little slots either side in here, and these little clicky bits click into that. So that's an easy install, but I think I'll just check the radio works first. This is the other thing that Rich sent over, which is a adapter which goes into the harness on the back of the radio. I do have a bunch of old Alpines, and bizarrely my choice was forced by the fact that this is the only one that the Alpine connector would go into for some reason, which is odd. Right, that one goes into there, that one goes into there. I'll just turn the engine off for this bit. It is a switched ignition on this particular radio, so as soon as I turn the ignition off there's no power to that, and I can just hook these clicking together. Interestingly, this black and grey one wasn't connected on the Volvo radio, and I wonder if that's why there's no speakers in the back. Now this has got a different connector. This isn't the long pointy type. This isn't the long pointy type like the car's got. This has got a little kind of shallow type. Need to go and get an adapter. One of these. Weirdly, by chance, I've used one of these. Must have been with this radio actually, or one like it. Now, moment of truth. Does it work before I shovel this back into the car? Oh, it sounds like it's alive. Lights are coming on. Ooh. Volume works.
In Northern Ireland, GCSEs and A-level.
Well, yeah, it makes noise. Presets seem to work. Yeah, we've got a functioning radio. That's really, really cool. Now the question is, how does this support itself inside that bracket? Because the old Volvo radio, just, I don't know. Let's have a look. Don't want to make a block of wood or something to sit it on. And this radio has got all the pre-outs and things, so I could be running out amplifiers and stuff on this if I wanted to in the future. I've also got a Alpine 6 CD changer, which I could find a home for in the boot once I've managed to get that dry, because that's the next thing I'm going to come on to in a couple of minutes. That's a lot of wires. And there isn't really enough room to shove these wires down the back. Normally there's a hole or somewhere, just a big cavity behind these areas where you can bury all the wires, but there doesn't seem to be enough space for all these kind of loom plugins, which is a problem. Also, I've just remembered something from last time I used this aerial adapter, is that it comes undone really easily, so I have to go and get some insulation tape to kind of bind it all together. Otherwise, as you wiggle it around, it disconnects, which is something I'd forgotten about, these rather rubbish connectors. Kind of bind them together. But whilst I was rummaging around in there, I did kind of discover these wires are almost a self-solving problem, because I need to put like a centimetre above and below the head unit to stop it from rattling around up and down inside this gap. I'm thinking I can probably just use the wires themselves as the base I was going to have to go and make out of a piece of wood or plastic or something. This might actually work. Would you believe it? It is now nestling in a cradle of its own cables at pretty much exactly the right height, with the block connectors underneath it and the tail outs for the subwoofer on top. So it's all cushioned quite nicely by that lovely nest of rubber and plastic. I did all this with the radio turned on, partly so I could listen to it when I was having the camera turned off, but also so I could see if the wires were disconnecting, and if they were, I could then whoops. Oh, it's going to be tricky now. Yeah, so I could do it, well, make sure the wires weren't disconnecting themselves from the radio. Because of these little lugs, I can't push this in once the radio's in there. This is going to become awkward. Right, so everything now unconnected from the radio. This is going to be fun. I can now connect or install this around. There we go, that's now fitted quite firmly. The next stage is to reconnect the radio to everything. Bit more tape holding the antenna in. Now this is going to be really quite interesting how I'm going to manage to do this, because I need to get everything pushed in there, laid flat, and the radio on top of it, but without any room for my fingers. Some more. No, how am I going to do this? Got it. Nearly. Wow, that sounds grindy these days. Oh man, that's cracked in storage. That's annoying. Well, it doesn't look too bad. It is a little bit too modern by about 10 years. probably even less than that. It's probably about, yeah, actually this is probably mid to late 90s. This is about a 1997-ish radio, I think, off the top of my head, thinking back to when I bought it. So it's probably about 10 years too new for the car, so it doesn't look massively out of place. It's not completely in period for the car, but it's not massively out of place either, so it's kind of not bad, but it's a really good radio. It's got a lovely sound to it, and I can plug in the CD changer once I've sorted out the damp in the boot. I'm going to go and find some AYLESFORD or something so I can glue this surround, which I think the little clips seem to have broken off in storage. That will give it that slightly nicer look. It's also nice to have some actual lights in the dashboard, because the other problem I've got with this car, if I click the ignition on, you probably can't see this in daylight. A bit like on the Alpha really, only about half the speedo lights up. From 80 onwards is beautifully illuminated. Below 70 at night I have no idea how fast I'm going. So I'm going to have to look at taking this dashboard out and see if I can change these light bulbs. I think what you have to do is take out, I think you take out these bits of trim just here, and there are screws hidden underneath that from memory. Might go that in a minute. Before I do that though, I'm going to just make it easy fix this lid, which is really annoying because it rocks all over the place and doesn't shut straight. There you go, that's better, bit nicer. Now to keep this as a properly in period correct repair, I've got mixed up some basically AYLESFORD, if you remember that stuff, which is good stuff actually. Trying to get it so it's visible. I'm not convinced an old pen top is the best form of applicator tool, but we'll hope it does the trick. Trying to keep it as neat as possible along the top here, because that is visible. God, the wind is actually buffeting the car right now. It's quite surprisingly scary, well not scary, impressive how powerful the wind blows through this little area. So I'm running out of things to say about this. I'm literally just gluing it in place. Although I am suddenly now realising that a hot glue gun would have been a far better proposition, because I wouldn't have to sit here and hold it till it dries. In fact, I'm not sure it's even contacting in many places. It's actually not contacting. Damn, apart from there where it doesn't need to. Damn it. Okay, that's now missing. Only more limited contact on these little ridges on the inside. I thought it was going to be butting up all along the back edge, but it's not. I know, I can tape this in place until it dries. Haha. Right, so I'll leave that for a little while now, and hopefully when I come back to it in, I don't know how long stuff takes to set, sometime it'll be bonded to the dashboard. Oops. It'll be bonded to the dashboard, although considering that just came unstuck in under 10 seconds, it might not be. Now the next fun thing with the car, and I'm keeping hold of the key because it does keep locking itself recently, I just did it just a second ago, is boot struts. I forgot the boot struts. Okay, the other fun thing with this car is actually it's not too bad today. I've been parking it in someone else's drive, the back end of the car facing downwards, and it's not been collecting anywhere, well, no moisture at all. It was absolutely dripping every time I opened the boot in here before, and it was collecting a lot of dampness in here, but it still is. You can see I've taken the rubber bungs out, the rubber bum pump out of these holes so it can drain freely. There is still a moisture trail, which I think is coming from these lights. So I'm going to take these out, silicone up the gaskets, and put something over this one. This old repair is not really holding up. Rather usefully, this was right by the door with a 10mm already on it. This has not gunked up like it did. Ooh, it's full of water. Oh, I've got this. I think I found the culprit of where the water's coming from. Very, 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 very wet indeed. I will goop up the gasket, but the biggest problem is this hole just here in the side of it. So with that leftover AYLESFORD before that dries out, I'll find a bit of plastic and just stick it over there to try and keep it dry. The thing is, these things are £250 to £300 each for new ones, which is just insane money. Someone did email me a link to one in Ireland, but I checked out the description in detail and it had a cracked lens the same as this does, so it probably would have been, I mean, I suspect that's leaking through there as well. Well, I usefully bought a Manfrotto Pixie, which is a tiny mini tripod, the other day. I actually had one before, but I'd lost it, and the packaging looks like it fits exactly over there. Oh, the curve goes the wrong way, that's annoying. Oh, that'd been so good if that curve had gone. It would have been so good if the curve had gone that way, it would have matched it perfectly. But that curve isn't too far off. So if I just trim that along there, that can just wrap around the curve of the front bit. You can hide that. There we go. That will be a considerably large improvement to the water tightness until I decide I'm willing to spend 300 quid on a light or 500 quid on a pair of lights for the back of this car. That's insane that a tail light is worth more than the vehicle. So there we have a glued on repair, and I will fill out of the black area with the same silicone I'm about to go and do the gasket with, so it doesn't leak through the little corner bit. I did dry some a minute ago, but it's filling the water again with the brakes on. So I've got just a little smear around the edge, butting up to the car as well, to try and keep it outside of the boot. Yes, I know it's wet. Everything is wet, it's always wet. This one has got a bit of water in it as well, not as bad as the other one with a big crack in it, but still enough water to be causing a problem. I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not, but while this is not bolted in properly, you can actually see the water dripping through from behind the lens. Right, well that's dry now. We'll park it up and see what it's like in the morning. Well, the last thing to do is try and fix this wiper arm on the headlamp, because these are apparently made of the most rare and valuable element on the face of the earth, because these arms are like 80 quid, which is insane for the tiniest little bit of metal. It's not even complicated, it's a little cast aluminium, bit of bent steel and a pin to the middle with a spring in it. But the thing that breaks is a plastic bit on the end, which has gone on mine. It's still in one piece on this side, but I'm very hesitant to touch it. But the guy at Lakes, at Volvo place, when I was asking about buying one of these, he said, don't worry, just get yourself a bunch of cable ties and make your own kind of, not bracket exactly, just clamp it together with cable ties and it'll work. So I'm going to do that quickly while it's raining and cold and freezing. Perfect time. Back to the GoPro because this nice camera is getting wet. Oh, it's so cold it hurts. Right. I just had to run inside and grab a new battery for the GoPro, because GoPro 8s, although they've got good vision and sound, have got the worst battery life of any GoPro I've ever used. They're rubbish, because that's where the little nozzles are, and that then sits behind that like that. I'm going to put this through this hole here so it can't fly off the end. Oh, so this is really, really hard to do with fingers that are completely numb. Pulling off down one side, so I can put this in the other way around so it pulls in the opposite direction and holds it square. That's my plan. There we go. Well, yeah, it kind of works. This needs to sit on top, so that can then be... Oh, so a couple of these on there. That's a dead one. So there we have it. A kind of a pretty much fixed thing. It sits flat against the glass more or less. Let's just check it does actually work. That, I hope, has been a reasonably successful afternoon's work. We've got a functioning radio which will soon have a surround attached to it, or possibly I've glued some insulation tape to the dashboard. We hopefully, and I'll do a little postscript bit to this tomorrow morning, so we'll find out tomorrow whether I've actually been successful in making the boot watertight, because that was being really damp, really horrible. You couldn't really use the boot for anything more than like shopping for a few minutes, because it would just obviously be damp and manky and horrible, and I don't want the boot floor to rot out, because that would be a real shame and a waste as well. And potentially we've got a stopgap solution for the non-obtainable, or massively expensively, if you really want to go and spend that much money, like £100 including shipping from Sweden, for the tiniest little wiper arm in the world. If that works, if that stays there, I'll be very happy indeed. Right, until tomorrow, I'll say goodbye. Like, subscribe, bell notification, bloody bar stuff. Well, last night rained a lot. This much, in fact. It rained, all of the rain, enough to sort of wake us up kind of rain. So this will be a really good test of how good the Volvo's new boot water sealing is. Moment of truth. We'll need the red bucket. That's not an improvement. That's really bad. Okay, and that's actually showing in. Is this showing in here? This is showing it's like a more than a finger deep of water. This is open up and stick underwater. You see how deep that is? That's terrible. That's really bad. So where on earth is this water coming from? Well, I've just figured out why the speakers don't work. These hard plastic editions don't have the best sound quality. Well, let's view this as an opportunity to upgrade rather than a reason to be sad that there's nothing there.